Okay, everybody, just doing some quick tutorials here in case you missed anything, you're losing anything, you can't find something, you don't remember how to do something. It's February 7th, and it is snowing up a blue streak outside, so this gives us a chance to just kind of get all this stuff down so you can all make sure you have what you need and you know what you should be looking for, and in case anything's going wrong. So as I'm sure you've gotten open or you've looked at already, we have InDesign down here. It depends on your machine, what version of InDesign you have, and depends on where to find it on the machine. If we're in class, we'll get you signed in and everything like that. But you want to have InDesign open, and then whatever your internet browser is open. I use Chrome, tends to work the best for what we do for class. So before we do anything in InDesign, we got to get all our files set up just to make sure we have a good space to work in on the back end of things. So we're going to minimize InDesign, minimize our program here. All right, so you have your Gmail open. We're minimize that for a second. Yeah, I'm listening to a little Steve Martin today. You guys can't hear it, but it's pretty good. I recommend it, even if you're not into that kind of stuff. Steve Martin's pretty funny. Okay, so go to your desktop. Right-click, new folder. My name is COMM 208 because that's our class. I'm going to put in my workspace. This is Brewer the Beagle. He's my Beagle. He's a good guy. And then these are just other files that I have on the desktop that don't affect anything. So once we have that folder created, go back over to our Gmail, and then come over here to this right here, this little number pad up here. Click on that, and go to Drive. Now, everybody's drive is going to look different depending on what you've been using, how much you use Google Drive. You guys want to hit on Shared with Me, and then there'll be a folder up here that'll be what I'm looking for. It's not going to work like that on mine, but that's what you guys want to hit. You want it Shared with Me. On mine, it's under my drive because I made it. And then Springfield College Courses, which won't look like this, but this is the folder you're looking for under Shared with Me. News page designs. So Shared with Me, and you're looking for that folder, news page design. Double click. This should have all our different stuff that we need for the semester. The stuff changes as we go along, but this should be where everything is typically located. So first thing we want to do is go to the master pages folder. And then we want to download this file right here, master pages INDD. There's a reason why these other folders and files are here. You don't need them. All you need is this one. So you right-click on it, hit download. And then you tell it where to download it. So we want to download it. Oh, sorry, I clicked through that fast. I clicked through the COMM 208 workspace folder. If you have a different name for it, that's fine. And hit save. So there. Now you see a little icon there. It's an InDesign page, so we're good. So that's all we need from here for now. We will come back to this when we want to get other materials out of it, though. So I always click back to news page design because this is kind of home base. This is where everything's going to live or come from, and it's going to live on our desktop. Sorry. So go back to InDesign, and you can go File Open or Control Open, whichever is easiest for you. I tend, if you don't see my mouse doing things, it's because I use my shortcuts a lot because I just use this program a lot. So I'm going to go open up our master pages. And it should look pretty familiar. It has all our different headlines and stuff we need. Has our dates and stuff that we need on there. Has our gray bars. Do the W trick quick here. You guys remember the W trick? Just hit the W button and it shows it in the preview mode. My sensitivity settings are a lot lower, so I have a much easier scroll than you guys do. So that might be something you want to change. Let's switch it back to the regular mode. Okay, so this is basically all the pieces that we need for all our different stuff, and it's saved on our desktop right now. So first thing we want to do before we do anything else, go File and Save As, and we're going to save a new file, just so we have a file to work in, and then we have our old master file that's going to hold all our stuff in place for us. So we're just going to name this tutorial, Feb 7. Hit Save. So now we're working in, you'll see the name change up here. Now you should be working in whatever you just renamed your file. as opposed to the master pages file. We want to keep master pages separate and not messed with. So we have all this stuff every time we need that file back. So today I'm just going to walk you through doing a cover here. I'm not sure how long I'll be talking, going back and forth. Might stop and start, but we'll just do a cover that I planned on doing actually today in class. It'll be our Super Bowl cover that we're planning to do in class, and it'll give you a chance to kind of walk you through things and tell you stuff that's good, bad, ugly, and stuff that needs to change. So as we've done a couple of times, we want to take everything here from below this. Let me zoom in. Below this blue line to above this gray and blue line. So you see this gray and blue. So everything above this and everything below this. So let's zoom back out. Give me a little bit better. There we go. So take our black arrow, click and drag, and pull all this stuff off to the right-hand side. So now we have a nice blank page, but we have all our goodies that we're going to need to use on it. So now we're looking good. I've drawn we did a little sketch here that I don't have to show you, but I have a pretty good idea of what my page is going to look like with my materials that I already have, but we'll get into that in just a little bit. So now I have my blank page. I need my stuff to fill my blank page with. So this is how I keep stuff organized, and every newspaper you're going to work at is going to do it differently, but I go back into my COMM workspace folder and I make a folder inside that folder. Call this Super Bowl materials. Since that's the page I'm going to be working on today, I'm going to save all the stuff I'm going to use in the Super Bowl materials folder. So now we go back to our this page here, the news page design page. And this is week 4. So I open up week 4 and we go to hands-on materials. And in this one, I made a couple different versions to give people the options. So we're going to do Super Bowl today. So I'm going to open up the Super Bowl folder. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stories and all these photos. So my plan was to do a 4-story front for this one, as opposed to a 5 that we did last week. 4-story fronts tend to be easier, but they don't have as much information on them. But I think for the example that we're doing here, we're going to do a 4-story front. And with the number of photos on it, I haven't decided on the number of photos yet necessarily. I have it written down kind of on my piece of paper, but I haven't really decided yet. So I think we're going to do a 4-story front, variety of photos. So the 4 stories that I want to do are going to be Eagles, Foles, persevere in soaring to Super Bowl title. Cripes, I finally got it out there. So I right-click on that, and I download it. And it's going to give me the same thing. See, we're in the workspace folder, so we want to go into Super Bowl materials, save it in there. Probably Foles, a Super Bowl MVP, and unlikely folk hero in Philly. That's probably another one I want to do. And it saves that Super Bowl materials folder for me. So hit save. Then we want a Patriots story on there. Sorry that they lost, but they lost. That's how the cookie crumbles. Being a Bills and a Mets fan, you'll learn that very quickly. Not really Bills fan so much, more Mets, but the thing still rings true. So right-click on that, download it, save. Now, I haven't really decided on the 4th story I want so far. I'm probably not going to do this Lane Johnson one because it's really long because I've looked at it already. But I haven't really decided between the shirts and the celebrations yet. So that's okay. We're going to show you a way to work around that in just a second. And this will kind of be, maybe I'll break the thing up and be like, okay, now you have everything set up. Here's how we're going to do our page kind of thing. But so I'm going to leave the 3rd one up in the air for now. So first things first, I'm going to go through my photos. Okay, Ernst touchdown. I like that one. That's a Foles, so that's going to get a download to our Super Bowl materials folder. Save. T-shirts, it's a cool photo. All right, Foles, there he is. Download that. All right. Foles isn't really in that, but it's Eagles, lineman, fan, Foles. That's a kind of a boring photo, I think. That's not so bad, but no. Fans. That's a Nick Foles photo. We're going to save that. Bill thinking. Bill sad. We're going to use that. Save that. And we're down to our stories. Okay, so we have what, 4 stories, or 4 photos and 3 stories. So it'll give us a start at least. So now all that stuff is saved in our folder. So we go back to our InDesign and we just double check our folder. It's got all the stuff in it. Looking good. Okay. So we're looking pretty good so far. So let's get started on our page. So we're going to pause for just a second. We get a drink of water, and then we'll probably break our videos up here. So let's just give me a second to pause. Okay, so if you're watching this part of the video, you've already selected your stories, you're good to go, everything's looking good. So, first thing we're going to do, change our date. For some reason, this isn't changing automatically. So how I did that was, click on it with the black arrow, and then just double click inside of it. And if you, I think triple click, but just click on it until you have this selected. And then we want to do February. Tomorrow is the 8th, 18. So make sure we have that correct. I'm just going to walk you through each of the individual pieces that I do in the order that I do them. And I've done this for, a couple of years. So this is the order that I do things in. If you have an order that you want to do things in, that's fine. This just helps keep me organized and gets everything done and updated that needs to be done and updated. So you see this extra guideline. I'm going to delete that off there. I don't want it there for now. So I have a 4-story front. I'm looking at my plan here. I'm going to lead with the fact that they won the game first. So that's going to be a 4-column story to start out. So I always start out with my headlines, because it gives you just a good anchor point that says, this is where I'm going to put my stories. So a couple of things with the first headline on the first page. These guidelines are here for a reason. They're here to help you. Do not go above the headline. You see how the blue line, if it's going above the blue line right here, we don't want to do that. That guideline is there for a reason. It gives us spacing, because look, you can see the difference between that. We have a nice little bit of white space there, and this, where it's all smashed in there together. We don't want that. Take advantage of the guidelines that you have. So, okay, so we have our first headline on there. That's good. Every story has a byline. So we're going to just drop our byline on there. Now the name in that byline is going to change. We don't have a guideline for the byline. Try and say that 3 times fast. So we don't have a guideline for the byline. So we see how this looks smashed on there. So what we do is we put it right up against it. We hold down the shift button and hit the down arrow. And that gives us the space we want. Only need to do it once, but it just separates it just that little bit. So every photo or every story is going to have a photo with it. So we're going to come over here, grab our photo box, bring it over here. Now, I have a feeling I'm going to want to make this photo big, because this is going to be my dominant piece of art on the page. So I'm going to want it to be at least 3 columns to start. And then every photo has a cut line. We talked about the importance of cut lines. They might not seem like the sexiest part of your page, but they're one of the most important. So do the same trick with get it up right against the bottom and hold down the shift button and hit down once. That gives you the spacing that you need. All right, so now I'm starting to look like I got a story package here. Now I've set mine up to look like an L. We go down here like this, and then we're going to come underneath the photo. So we draw, every story is going to have text boxes that it goes in. So I draw these before I put any image or any text on the page. Now notice I'm not using this. I'm using this. I'm using a blank box as opposed to one with the placeholder text in it. Placeholder text is only there to give you the formatting of the body copy. It's not to serve as all your text boxes. So you're just going to trip yourself up that way. So I'm going to draw a 1-column text box and then a 3-column text box underneath. I'm going to go back to my black arrow on that, and I'm going to come up here to where the columns are. 3. You can't see anything in there because there's no story in there yet, but we have a 1-column box and a 3-column box. And now that's drawn on there, so now I can see what's going on. Okay, that's what that story package is going to look like, and that's what the rest of my page is going to look like. What I think I'm actually going to do is I'm actually going to make this a little bit longer even. I think that's pretty good. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put another story on this page, and I'm also going to make that 4 columns. Ben, don't you want headlines different and stuff to look different? Yeah, of course I do. But right now I'm just building the skeleton of what I'm going to do. How do you get this spaced correctly? All right, well, I got my headline on here, and I know I want it to be this secondary headline size or secondary font because this is unbolded sans serif and this is bolded sans serif. If you don't know the terminology I'm using, you go back in the book and look at it from the first couple weeks of class. So I'm going to put this right along the bottom of that story, hold down the shift button, and I'm going to hit it 3 times now. And I'll explain why in just a second. So 1, 2, 3. So the reason why I hit it 3 times here is because you're going to have a space, a rule, and then a space. What's a rule? Well, we're going to bring our guideline down. We're going to line it right against the bottom. And we're going to hit it once. Twice. And then, oh, okay, so I counted wrong. So, okay, take 2 here. Okay, so we're trying to, let's move this off the page. I got to edit this. All right, so we have our top package created. Excellent, looks good, ready to roll on that almost. But we want to put another story package underneath it. So that sounds good. So right now we're going to draw, that shouldn't be there. Okay, so right now we're going to draw a new guideline down from the ruler at the top. You see where I would pull it from. You click right on the ruler itself. You get that double arrows and stuff. You pull it right down to the bottom of that story. It'll look dark blue like that. Hold down the shift button. Hit the down button twice. 1, 2. See how we have a little bit of white space underneath it. Okay. Now we're going to pull another guideline. See where I'm pulling it off of this thing? And put it right on top of the first guideline we made. Snap right to it. Hold down the shift button. Hit down twice. 1, 2. And the reason why we do all that is because we want to create some white space in here for our next story we're going to put on, which is going to be also be 4 columns, but it's going to go right here. Pull this across like this. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go over here and grab the line tool. And then this is where it's a little difficult to explain here. You see where this purple and this blue cross right here at the edge of the page? We're going to click on that right there where it is. Hold down the shift button. Pull it across to here where the columns meet. Let go of our mouse hand. Then let go of the shift key. And see where we drew that line? It'll be easier to see when we get some text in this box and this box, but I think you get the general idea. Now we have some space in between these 2 stories. So moving on, I'm going to want some photo and some story boxes down here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the photo box with my black arrow. And you can do it one of 2 ways. You can either hold on the Alt button and drag, click and drag, which makes a copy. Or you can click on it and hit copy, which is Control-C, and then paste Control V. All right, and then it comes, and we're just gonna make it a little bit smaller so we work with it. All right, so we see it's not exactly the size we want it. We want a 2-column photo here. Oops, just make sure you click on the right things like this. Draw that box. Now, how do I do that? There's these little boxes on here. You see how it has the little like 45-degree angle thing there? Not this, this, not this, this. And you pull the corner where you want it to go. Give it a little bit of space to breathe. Pull it down. Okay, so now we have photo box there. We need our cut line. Don't forget the cut lines. So you go up to the cut line package. Control C, Control V. There's a bonus one. Pull that down. Put it underneath. And then you see these little boxes over here. We're going to pull that just like that so it fits. And then we're going to hit the W button just to see how it looks. Looks pretty good. We want to make sure that we're above that little blue line down there, though. Look at it again. I think we can work with that. So you see we're using this guideline to help us. Whole thing's lined up. All right, our text is going to go there. So, but what do we need? We need a byline. Go up. Copy and paste it. Now we have a byline in there. Now we're going to need the text boxes. So in this case, in order to make the byline work easier, I draw 2 1-column text boxes. One column text box, one column text box. So now we have 2 text boxes here. All right. Now there's one thing I have forgotten on all this stuff because these stories are going to be too big to fit in these places. So I'm going to need jump lines. That's this guy right here. Okay. So we just copy and paste him or her. Bring it over here and put it in the spot where it's supposed to go because this story is going to jump to the inside. Do the same thing over here. Copy and paste it and put it right in there. So now we have 2 story packages all set to go. I can drop text on them if I want. I'm going to hold off on that, though. It's going to be way easier to get all my boxes and everything drawn first and then start putting stories on here. That's the one thing I noticed last week is everybody was very excited to put all their stuff on the page, which is good. We want to put our stuff on the page. We have to be patient enough to get all our stuff drawn first. And then when we put our stories on the page, it's going to be super easy to do that. So I have, like I said, we're going back to way at the beginning. We said we're going to do a 4-story front. And we have 2 stories set up. So we're obviously going to put our other 2 stories here. So we're going to put our other 2 stories in this column here on the right. Now we have to space things, though, like we talked about before. So we're going to have to draw ourselves a rule that's going to cut into this side of the page. And this is one thing that we kind of went over quickly last week, and I just want to take an extra second to explain why. When you're designing a page, everything really should be ruled off or boxed off. Like it should have lines around it. So people can tell where stories start and stop, and it helps guide your eyeballs when you're reading. So in this case, we're going to cut into this bigger side of the page because it's harder for people to tell that you've cut into their story if you do it on the bigger side of the page. You have more real estate to give up on the left side of this page, and then there's one skinny column over here. So how do we do that? Okay. This is the part that we went over quickly last week, and we're just going to go over it again here. So we're going to use this line right here as our start point. That's where our rule is going to go. So we come over to the left ruler. See, we had the double arrows. We pull this guideline all the way over to that line. All right, see how it's dark blue right now? Hold down the shift button. Hit the left directional arrow, 1, and then 1, 2, for a total of 12. I'll show you again. Or you can hit 12 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. The only reason why it's 12 is because that's the width of this column. I don't know why it's 12. It's just the way the defaults were designed, and the defaults work really well. So you see how we have 3 rule lines now, 1, 2, and 3. That's what we want. So now we line up all our big side stuff on this new blue line that we just made. Okay. So pulling our cut line over, pull this text box over. Don't forget that. Pull. Oh, let me get. There we go. I'll zoom in a little bit so it's easier to see. Don't forget the jump line. You got to pull that over too. Don't forget the rule that we drew before. This rule. Okay. Headline, photo box, cut line. Good. Okay, now I'm gonna, I zoom in and zoom out a lot because it's easier to navigate the page a little bit. So my apologies if you're not used to that. More, it's kind of like why we're just throwing you guys right into the mix here doing this program, because the more you work with it, the things you'll find that work for you. So I've gone over here and I've selected my line tool. And I'm going to right where these meet, right here, this purple and this blue. I'm going to draw a line. I'm going to click on hold my shift button down and click and drag all the way down to the bottom of the page. And you see where the other blue crosses right here. I let go of my mouse button. I let go of the shift button. And you can see it on there already. Well, just so you want to see it completely. See, now we've lined off the left side of the page versus the right side of the page. All right, everybody got that? Good. Okay, so now we're going to want to put two stories here. So first one we're probably going to want to do, I have it written on my thing here, but you can't see, but I probably want one in this top half of the page and one in this bottom half, so I can reach my 4-story quota that I got to meet. So I've obviously pulled my headlines here, but I'm going to want to do, I think, this type of headline in this column. So I'm going to click on it with my black arrow, copy and paste it, so I have an extra one. I'll put it right up in that column, and I'm going to draw it like this, which is going to make it disappear. But I know that text is there still because that little red line. So okay, so it's gone away. So let's make it so it fits. So I click in there with either my text tool, or I just click in the box enough until I have everything selected. Hit Control A. Need to. Then I go up here to my point sizes, and I think we're going to put like 35 in there. I don't know if it's going to fit. I don't know what it's going to look like. We're going to put 35 in there just to give us somewhere to start. So that looks like it'll fit. So that's good. So we're going to just leave that there as headline 1 for now. We know it's going to be multiple decks. So we're going to leave some space because we know it's going to be multiple decks, but at least it's there. So we know it's there. So I'm going to draw my text box for this story. But I've forgotten something. Forgot my byline. Every story has a byline. So I go over here, and I left myself a little room. So copy and paste my byline. Drop it on there. That looks pretty good. I mean, that's a pretty good amount of space. I did forget one other thing, my jump line, which I'm going to put on there now. I'm going to line it up right with the bottom of the story. These kind of little details really matter. Like getting that lined up correctly matters. So you got to take it seriously. You don't have to, you don't have to be afraid of it, but you do have to take it seriously. I'm now looking at it again. I'm like, I can make that a little bit longer. So I'm actually going to make it a little tiny bit longer. So off of that, I did that all with my black arrow. Now I'm trying to click and grab my jump line here. You see that? I can't get it though. Every time I click on it, it gives me the text box. All right, my first rule is to not freak out. Can't freak out. I can't start clicking like a madman. I got to just take my time and figure out what's wrong. So what's happening is that this text box is actually on top of the jump line here, which is fine. That's just the way we have it layered right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down the control button, and I'm going to click on the jump line. And you see how it did that and picked it for me? So I'll show you again. So I'm selected on the text box. I don't freak out. I hold down the control button, and I click on it. It's just a trick you're just going to have to learn. It's one of those things you got to learn. So I'm going to move him down and get him in line. So there, that looks pretty good. So let's see how our page is looking. Page looks pretty good. We're going to change our point size on a lot of this stuff. We're going to move stuff around. We're probably going to make this photo bigger, but right now we have the bones in place to do what we need to do. So last thing we got to do is get our fourth story on here. So we pull our guideline all the way down to the bottom of this previous story. We're going to do it just like we did this one here. All right, so now we zoom in. So we have our guideline selected. So we go Shift, down arrow, down arrow. And we pull a new guideline, put it right on top of the other one. Shift, down arrow, down arrow. Okay, come over here, grab our line tool. Draw a little line across. Now you can do that, or actually, I'm going to take a look at it quick. We could do that. Well, let's leave it there for now, because I'm going to actually probably change some stuff up in a little bit, but let's leave it there for now. It's better to put it in and take it out than to not have it need to go back and do it later. So I'm going to grab my headline here, since this one works. I'm going to copy and paste it. And I'm going to line it up on our new guideline here. See, we're lining up on this blue guideline. Need my byline. Line it up. Shift and a down button. Draw our text box. Oops, clicked wrong there. So I'll just draw our text box here. Leave a little bit of room for our jump line so we don't forget our jump line. Okay, I'm still underneath that one, so I have to hold Control to select it. And copy and paste it. And let's move it down to the bottom of the page here. Okay, so what we've done is we have taken all of our ideas and we've got them on the page now. Now we have the bones of our page created. It took us a little while to get there. We have 2 photos on here. Maybe we'll add some more stuff. Maybe we'll take some stuff off, but that's going to be probably it for this one, just to keep these videos relatively short and compact. And then we'll come back in the next video and we'll actually start putting stuff on the page. And we'll start building our page out here, maybe making some changes to it. So here's what it looks like right now. Looks like the beginnings of a newspaper page. I like it. So we'll go on to the next one. Be right back. Okay, so now that we've gone back and forth and we got everything set where we want, and we're going to actually start putting stuff on the page. So that's exciting. Sounds good. So we're going to start actually with our photo, I think because photo is the most important thing that's going to be on this entire page. So let's get our photo on there. So what we do is we select our photo box with our black arrow, hit Control D. Or if you want to do it the old-fashioned way, I think it's under File. It's under, yep, there it is. Place. We want Place. Control D or Place. Should give you the same thing. So we go back to our COMM 208 workspace one. Our Super Bowl materials. Okay. So which story are we going to lead with? We're actually going to lead with the gamer. In this case, we're imagining that it's the day or the night of the Super Bowl. We have to lead with the gamer the next day. So I really like this photo of Nick Foles catching the touchdown pass. I mean, it's kind of a defining play of the game. You don't usually see a quarterback in this situation. So we're going to hit open. And it fits in there pretty good. Here's what it looks like in the regular size. It's a pretty cool photo. So zoom in quick, but you know what? I want it to be even bigger. So I'm going to make my text box a little bit smaller to give me some more room. Move my cut line down. And pull that down. Because remember what we were talking about is photos can never be too big until they're too big. So we want this photo bigger. So a couple of things. We moved all that stuff down. So now we're selected on it with the black arrow again. Okay, a couple of options how we can make this bigger. First thing, we go up here and we go up to this one right here, fill frame proportionally, which is going to pull that photo in the same aspect ratio so it's not stretched out. Because if you stretch out photos, I lose my mind. So click on that. All right, I think that works pretty good. You know what, though? I want it even bigger. I want it more zoomed in as opposed to just where it is. So how do I do that? All right, well, first thing we got to do is go over here to select our white arrow. Come over here, and you see how that the yellow border pops up? That's the actual frame of the image beyond where our photo box goes. So I'm going to click on it with our white arrow, come up here, and I'm going to use my percentages to goose it a little bit. No pun intended for the eagles. You see how it's getting bigger as I make this number bigger? All right, I like that, but now it's not in the right place. So I can either click on it and move it with my mouse, and if you click and drag, it should give you kind of the whole thing. You can kind of see it as watermarked there. And I'm going to make it even a little bit bigger because it's kind of like it's a big deal play. It's important. And what I'm going to do then is I'm going to make this text box go down to like here. And I'll pull this down to here because now I can double dip on these guidelines. That's great. And I'm going to pull this down and make it even just a little bit bigger. I'm going to zoom out. That I like. I like that. I think that'll work. So my photo is king. So I got that on there. I like how that photo works. If you need to see that kind of stuff again, we're going to go over it again when we go with our second photo in a little bit. So now my second most important thing is my headline. Now I know my story gives me a long headline. And notice I haven't put any text on the page yet because I don't want my page cluttered up with stuff just yet. I want to work first so I can think clearly first, and then I'm going to put my text on the page. So I know my story is the gamer about the Eagles winning. So I'm going to go with in reference to, you guys saw those Bud Light commercials that were on there where they say dilly dilly. Well, we're going to say Philly Philly. So that doesn't explain enough for what the story is. And you see how my Y's are reaching down onto my photo here. So we have a couple of things we got to do. We have to get this to fit. And then B, we're also going to have to put a subhead on to explain what we're saying with Philly Philly, which is fine. We're going to do that in just a second. First things first, let's get our sizing correct. So let's give it a W to see what we're working with here. Okay. So these little tails are hitting the thing here. And we got to get this headline to fit. So I'm going to do this a little bit quickly, but I'm going to talk you through it while we're doing it. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to pull this photo down, the box itself, not the photo, the box. So make sure you have your black arrow selected and click on this top square and pull this down. Now the ball has gone away, but we're going to bring the ball back. So then we're going to pull this text box down. Again, pick it with your black arrow, move it down. This is just to move stuff out of the way so we can work with the headline. Then we're going to pull it all back up. So first things first, let's get this text box a little bit bigger so we can work inside of it. Then we double click inside of it or triple click inside of it just to make sure it's all selected. And I'm sorry, I did that a little quickly. So I made sure everything was selected. Then I went up to my point sizes here. And this is, since it's a Super Bowl, I think we can get away with a really big headline. So 129, that's pretty big. But I think we can get away with it because it's a Super Bowl. If it was another game, we might not make it that big. But you know that people are going to read that. And when we get this photo redone, we're going to have a nice, solid photo package for this. Okay? So we're going to zoom back in, and now we're going to reset our photo and all that stuff, and we're going to make it work. So we're going to bring this up. Now you see how it gives me a guideline here? I want to take advantage of that guideline because I like that spacing. All right, so I have the ball kind of cut off here. So I have to kind of work back and forth with this image a little bit. Maybe we bump the actual size of it down just a touch. kind of recenter it a little. You know what? I want the ball in there, though. So I'm going to hit the black arrow. And I see the cascade of events that's happening here, this domino effect of events while you have to try and get stuff done. That's why I don't want the text on here, because it's just going to get in the way for the time being. So I'm going to move this down, and I'm going to move this down again. I'm going to pull this a little bit lower. Okay, then I go back to my white arrow, and I select it again. I click and hold, and I'm going to, we go something like move them around like there. All right, I think that works. I have enough space here, and actually, zooming out on it, I might have a little bit too much space here. Right, and what I'm talking about is right here. These little kind of details really matter. I know it seems tedious, and it is, but they really make a big difference. So I'm going to move this up to the bottom of this. I'm going to hold down the shift button, hit down once. Now I'm going to take a look at it. Now that's working for me. But notice how many little adjustments I've had to make so far to make these things work. And that's the kind of stuff we're talking about here. So we can't get lazy, and we can't get just like fling stuff around. We have to make it work. So I do the same thing with my cut line, and I readjust my text box, zoom back out. And there's going to be a lot of zooming in, look at it, zoom out, look at it, zoom in, look at it. I mean, because that's the way it works. So I think we have our headline set, we have our photo set, looking pretty good. Now we need to put a subhead on it, because Philly, Philly, even though it's a hilarious, great headline, doesn't really make any sense. It could be anything. So we have to put a subhead on it. So come up here and grab our subhead, move it into place. Okay. We grab our corner of our box, make it look like this. Now I see a lot of people, they don't line up their boxes on the guidelines. You have to line the boxes up on the guidelines. The guidelines are there specifically to help you with that. They maintain spacing. They make your life just so much easier. So now, sorry, I did that quickly. So I got my subhead adjusted. It's about the size I'm going to want it. I'm going to click in here until I have some of it selected. Then I hit Control A. I'm going to write Eagles in first Super Bowl by topping Patriots 41-33. Or was it 32? Well, I'll have to double check that. So obviously it doesn't all fit, so we're just we'll drop it down to like 30 and see if it works. Okay, now we're talking. I misspelling in there, clean that up. I think I'm going to get rid of first. I don't really need it because I want Super Bowl all on one page. Get rid of by. Put a comma here. Don't need an ing. I think that works. I'm going to bump my point size up just a little bit. Now there's this white space here that I want to try and fill. So how am I going to do that? Even I don't have the answer for that. I have to think about that for a little bit. What we might do is go. So I'm going to go Eagles, top Patriots, to win Super Bowl. Okay. So that fills my space, but I don't want Super Bowl broken up. So a little bit, make sure we get Super Bowl. Okay, so you see how we have Patriots breaking now. We don't want that, so we're just going to enter just to put it on the next line. Didn't do what we wanted. So we've made a mistake. We have to back up. So we don't like any of stuff. So we go Control and Z, and it backs all that stuff up. And then if we go up too far, it's Shift Control Z, and that puts our stuff back. So let's see. let's see, Eagles win Super Bowl over Patriots. Maybe 30, 28. That's a little small. How about soar to Super Bowl win over Patriots? Okay. Oh, sorry. Should be a regular break there. I'm going to select it all. There we go. Now, we call this little white pocket in here. You see how it makes a little pocket in here? We call it trapped white space. You want to avoid it. In this case, I don't think we. And then what we can do to fix that is change win to victory. Eagles scored a Super Bowl victory over Patriots, 41-33. So you see how my thought process went through there is I got to fill it. I got to explain my headline, but I had to fill that little spot. 4 column or 4 deck subheads. Okay, that's going to be fine. Let's make sure our boxes are all fit in the right size. Let's zoom out, take a look. Philly, Eagles soar to Super Bowl victory over Patriots, 41-33. Works for me. Zoom back in, take our byline, line it up, then do our shift down trick, down directional down, like it's our byline lined up, and pull our text box up and do our text box, same thing, shift down arrow. Okay, now that's lined up, and then we have to make sure it lines up down here still. It does not, so we just got to line it back up with that. Perfect. Okay, so there's a lot of back and forth, a lot of little things one at a time. You're going to hear the dog freak out here, so we're going to edit this out. All right, so we're back. So we have our headline done, our subhead done, our byline, our photo. We haven't done our cut line yet, but we have it in place. So when we're ready to write our cut line, we can do that. So, and actually, that's what we're going to do next. Before we still, if you notice, we still haven't done the text for the story on the page yet. We haven't done that yet. We don't need it yet. We're going to do our cut line next. So we take our black arrow and select our cut line package, and then we're going to zoom in on it. Okay, so grab our text tool. And obviously, Ben Myers didn't take this photo. So do Associated Press. Now, how these credit lines are done is going to vary from paper to paper. Everybody's going to be a little bit different on how they do those. But we still have our text tool selected now, and we select the text of the cut line. So this is a cut line. It should be filled out as such as a cut line should be. That's obviously not the cut line we're going to want. So we have to write a new cut line. So not Mick, but Nick folds in a. Actually, we're going to change that. We're going to go Philadelphia Eagles. Oops, spell it right. Eagles quarterback. Nick Foles pulls in a touchdown pass in the Eagles in over the New England Patriots in Super Bowl LII on Sunday, Feb 5, 2018. Every paper is going to do cut lines a little bit differently. Well, for the most part, the Associated Press does write their own cut lines. You can just copy and paste those cut lines in there. We don't have that luxury here because, for our technology constraints. But, I mean, that's just a generic cut line. You can get a little bit fancier if you want, or you can just use whatever the photographer puts in there. But that at least gets our thing on there. Now, the one thing I did forget in here, I have to go back to our text tool and add it in. We're going to put the score of the game in there, 41 to 33, because despite, it doesn't matter how good this story is, people are going to read Philly, Philly, Eagles win. They're going to look at the photo and they're going to read the cut line for the most part, and then they're going to move on, which is frustrating, but that's just the way people work nowadays. So you're going to get as much information, just get a good amount of information in the cut line that people are going to read as well. In this case, it's a little generic, but that's okay. We're just practicing working through these things still. So now my headline's done, my subhead's done, my byline's done, my photo and cut line are done. I'm still not going to put text in here. I'm going to go down and I'm going to get my jump line done first. So this is going to lead people inside so they can read more about the story. So I'm going to make it like Eagles win, something like that. And it might be on page 2, it might be on a different page. For our purposes, we'll just leave it on page 2 for today. Okay, so now I have headline, and the more you do this, the more you'll just automatically click through these things in your head. But I'm just going to manually do them for now, just to show you kind of how your mind has to start working in order to make sure these things are done. Headline's done, subhead's done, byline's done, photos done, cut line's done, jump line is done. Okay, last thing I need is my text. All right, so I'm going to go back to here, go back to my folder here. Okay, open it up. It has our byline on it. We haven't done our byline yet when we get back there, so we're going to want to get back to that right away. Make sure it's the right story. Oh, looks like the right one. Control A just to select it all. Control C to copy it. Put it in our text box. Paste it in there. You guys have gotten this one pretty good so far. So then we click on here. We go Control A. We want to make sure it's formatted correctly. This is our formatting. So we do our little eyedropper trick. Bing. All right. So now it's formatted correctly. Good. So we go in here. Eagles, Foles persevere in soaring to Super Bowl title. Okay, we don't need that. So delete it. Next thing. Oh, Barry Wilner is our guy that wrote this. So we change my name out, or Ben's name out for Barry Wilner. Notice I haven't worked with the text other than formatting it just yet. And we're going to change out the Twitter handle to Associated Press. Now we're done with our byline. Delete that out of there. I always delete the AP out of there. We already said it's from the AP. That's fine. Okay, so we have our first leg of text in there. Looks good. Now we have to get it underneath here, so that's why we drew our 3-column box. So we drew our 3-column box underneath, and this is why we do everything ahead of time before the text is on there, so it's easier to work with. So we come back over to our first column. We see this little red plus sign down here. Click on the plus sign, move it over. All right. So it automatically fills our 3 columns. It's a little hard to see because of all our guidelines and stuff here. But we have a nice little space here. It's what we want before our jump line. Let's zoom out, hit the W button. Looks pretty good. Looks almost exactly like what we want it to look like. Awesome. Perfect. So that's done. We're a quarter of the way home. Got all that done. So I'm going to pause here again. This is done. We might have to adjust it and make some moves and that kind of thing on it, but there's some changes that we're going to do. We're going to do another story. We're going to make another video, so then you can jump back and forth as needed. There you go. First story package done. Let's move on to the second one. All right, so we're back here to do our next story. And we're cutting out some little things here and there for more advanced stuff. So by the end of the class, you can come back and look at us and be like, oh my God, we're only doing that much. But we're working on our fundamentals right now. So first thing we're going to do is get this back, and we're going to work on this story down here because it's our second most important story. But one thing we've noticed, if we go back to the W version, is this rule here is really chewing up a lot of space, and this headline is actually probably act as a kind of a natural break for us anyway. So, because my plan right now, and I haven't shared this with you because I wanted you to concentrate on the first story package getting done, is that this story is actually going to relate back to this main Philly Nick Foles Super Bowl story, because this is going to be the Nick Foles is the MVP story down here. So what we're going to do, it's a little bit of an advanced move, but here we go. We're actually going to delete that line. We're not going to use it. We're going to use this headline as a natural break to go with this story. So what do I mean by that? Is we're actually going to go in here and zoom back in and put this right up here, but underneath that guideline that we made before. And we're actually going to get rid of this guideline. We don't need it anymore, because what we're going to do is these two stories are going to go together. So we want to signal that they go together, so we don't want to break them with a guideline there. Okay? For other days and non-Super Bowl days, you might need that guideline. That's why we put it in there in the first place. These two stories might not be related, and you want to put a line there to delineate that they're not related. But in this case, we do want them to be together because they are related. That's going to affect how we put things down here and the shapes of these and the sizes of these. But let's start at the top. Let's start with our headline. So let's think of our headline first. We'll go Nick Foles and the unlikely MVP. Now it obviously went off the end. It's okay. We're going to hit Control A to select it all. Up our point size down. All right, here comes unlikely. All right, so we still have 61. That's a pretty good size headline for a 129 above it, about half. So that's good. That's exactly what we want. Looks pretty good. It fits in the spot that we want it to fit into. So we're going to come back up here, and we're going to make that text box the right size. Then we're going to take our photo box, put it right up underneath, shift them down to give it a little bit of space. And now we have a little bit of room to work with here. We can leave our cut line there because it's going to rest right on the bottom. So now we have a little bit bigger of a photo box. All right, let's find our Nick Foles photo that we want to put in there. And I think the one of him with him and his daughter is a pretty good photo for this one, but we'll see if it fits. So let's see. So I'm going to go Control D because it's easier for me. And here's him and his daughter. Nick Foles 1. Hit open. Okay, way too big for now. That's okay. So we have it selected right there. We have the box selected. So we go up and we take our white arrow and click on it. And you see the yellow border. That's the actual size of the photo. So we're going to go up here and we're going to take our fill frame proportionally tool. Click on it. Hey, there we go. Okay. So we zoom out, we see it's a little big still, a little wide still. So how do we make that work? Well, I think what we might do is we might click it all and drag it over like this. Let's see what that looks like. We're going to zoom back out. All right. Even though it cuts his arm off, I think that's okay. I like the look of it. I think it's pretty good. Cuts his arm off a little bit, but it's him and his daughter, and I think it works. I'm okay with it. So good. So we have our photo done. Excellent. It was that easy. So we're going to do our cut line next since we're here. Photo by, it's obviously by the Associated Press, not Ben Myers. And then let's go Nick Foles. Oh, hang on. Philadelphia quarterback Foles celebrates winning Super Bowl Oh, I. That's how I remember them. Comma 41 to 33 over the New England Patriots on Sunday. Or let's just put the date in there. Feb 5, 2018 with his daughter. And most of the time we would look up and see what his daughter's name is. But since we're just practicing here, we don't have to worry about it too much. We're just getting stuff on the page. So, all right. So now we have our headline is done. Our photo is done. Our cut line is done. Our credit line is done. Again, notice that we haven't put the text for the story on the page because we don't want it monkeying around with what our headline is going to be or what our text box is going to be. It just keeps it so much more organized because then you can just make a headline up that fits and you're not swayed by what this stuff says down here. So let's make our text boxes a little bit bigger. Line them up. Notice how the rules are popping up to help me out. That should be happening on your machine. If it's not, we can set it to do so. All right, so now we have this set up. And you notice how it's got a little bit more text on the page now, which is great. Before we put our text in, go down here, and we're going to do folds for our jump line, just because it's going to make our life much easier. We don't have to worry about that a little bit. So we go up and take our black arrow. So we're looking good. So let's go back to our folder. Let's close this one just to get it out of the way. So here's our story. Arnie Stapleton wrote this whole big thing up. That's good. Select it all, copy it. Okay, get it on the page. Notice it didn't go into our two text boxes, only this one text box. That's okay, it's what we want. Let's select it all, grab our eyedropper, and format it properly. There we go. All set. We don't need this because our headline's pretty straightforward and talks about the Super Bowl, so we can get rid of that. And let's make this Arnie. Oops, gotta make it capitals. Arnie Stapleton. He's a member of the Associated Press. Delete that. The one thing you want to be careful with the bylines is that you keep the style the way it's supposed to be. Don't go messing around with the styles of stuff because the styles are there to make your life easier. The more you change them, the more you're going to have to change them back. So that's why I'm trying to, you take your time and you really got to, draw individual boxes and that kind of thing. Because even a story this size has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 boxes involved with it to create one big box. So we have a giant rectangle. Everything should end up as a square or a rectangle. And I'll show you what I mean. Like you see how this Philly story, even though the text is an L, it makes one square unit. This Nick Foles story, even though the text is going to be 2 I's, makes one rectangular unit. And these will be one-legged text each, but they make a square rectangular units. So you want the entire thing to be made up of a bunch of little individual boxes that make one unit at the end. So let's go back to this, finish this one up. On our red plus sign, put it in our other box. Looks good to me. Jumps properly. It's going to jump to the inside. We're going to worry about that at some other time. Pretty good. So we have our big headlines. These guys connect. So we have some good art on the page. I think we're all set. Let's get these other 2 stories in here, and I think we should be good to go. So we were talking about how I hadn't really decided what the 4th story is just yet. So I'm going to go back over here and look at what I have to draw from. I definitely want the Patriots coordinators in there because I think we should have a Patriots story on there. But I think I'm going to go with Super Bowl shirts printed in Scranton as my 4th story. So I'm going to open it up. I'm going to take a look at how long this thing is. All right, it's pretty short. So what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to put that in this bottom slot here, and I'm not going to jump it. All right, delete. Line there. So what I did, just went in there, selected with my black arrow tool, and hit the delete button and got rid of it. So we're going to stop that. That story is going to stop on the front page. Then I think the Eagles or the Patriots coordinators will go jump inside. So let's do, you know what we're actually going to do first? We're actually going to do the fourth story next because we want it to stop. So we might have to adjust the size of this. What I'm saying is, let me zoom out here a little bit. This box might get bigger or smaller because we have to get this story to end on this page. We're not jumping it inside. So that might affect how long this is. So we're actually going to do this one first so it works. So let's start from the top and work our way down. Headline. Let's say Eagle. Philly. Eagles. See, this is the hard part because you got to think of a new headline, and the story is about how about we just take their headline and try and make that one work? So we're actually going to take their headline. You know, you guys copy and pasted stuff off of the internet before. So Eagles Super Bowl shirt. So it's pretty close already. So let's see if we make this a little bit smaller. Eagles Super Bowl shirts printed in Scranton. 4 decks, 31 point size. I think that works. Let's zoom out. Okay, look. That works for me. Great. So even better. We didn't even have to really work on that one. We could just put that in there. So we have our byline on here, and we want this story to end on this page. So let's go in there and grab it. Okay. Just so we went through that, select the box, double click on it, and it should automatically give you a text option. Paste it in there. Control A to select it all. Eyedropper. And syncs it up, so it gets our style correct. All right, so our headline's already on there. So delete that. Let's see, let's do our byline next. John O'Connell. He is in the Associated Press. Okay, so now our spacing is looking good. We're looking good on everything, but wait a second. We're not looking so good here. We have to make this story end on a sentence or a paragraph break. So for now, we're going to pull this down to see what we're working with, and we're only over by 1 line. So, what are we going to do? Let's think. Let's take a look at the rest of our story. Let's actually pull it off to the side here. I'm just reading the story here. Doesn't really have a good natural break. I think we'll go to there, though. Again, that might change in other situations, or we might decide, oh, maybe we do want to jump it inside, you know. So first things first, I'm going to try and get everything. In this case, we're just practicing. So first things first, let's just get everything set up how we want it set up. So I'm just using this guideline to kind of see where I have to move my stuff. So I'm going to pull this up to here. And in this case, we're going to hold the shift button, hit up 1, because it gives us the same spacing that we want. Same thing here. Shift up 1. You know, see how I lined it up there on the top of the byline? And then just move that up 1. So that's about where our story is going to go. I think that's okay. So we're going to pull this up a little bit just to get it out of the way, just to get this stuff out of the way. So these guidelines ended up not really helping us all that much. They helped us set this rule, but they didn't really do anything else besides it. So we're going to delete them. Yep, delete that. And delete that. We don't really need it. I'll remove this rule up here. So then we're going to take our black arrow, which we should still be selected on, and move it over all 3 of those. So now we have all selected. We're going to move that into place. Line it up properly. All right. Looks good to me. Okay. So now we go down here. We can draw our guidelines again. We're just going to be hardcore and just move our rule right down to the bottom and go Shift 1, 2 to give us the right amount of space. And we draw a rule right or a guideline right on that rule line and make sure the guideline is selected. And hit Shift 1, 2. So that's going to be the bottom of our top story is this guideline now. So we take our jump line, put it right on top. Okay, looking good. Then we want to take this and pull it all the way down to the top of that because we have a text wrap around that. We'll talk about text wrap some other time. So we're just working on the basics right now. So now we know we want this to be that Patriots coordinator story. So we might go after loss. Let's see, Patriots might lose coaches. Let's see, let's get that to fit. That's just a train going by, please. Don't be so loud, Mr. Train. So let's say, that's really not going to work because we have to have Patriots all in one line. So see, well, maybe we can try a 4-deck head in that case because it's one column. So if we follow our chart, we can make a 4-deck head in a 1-column space. That's okay. That's allowed. Make this a little bit bigger just to fill it out. Oh, too big. So 37 should be where it works. So let's zoom out and let's take a look. W. And like I said, don't be afraid to zoom in, zoom out, take a look quickly. It helps you make adjustments on the fly. And as the more you kind of check yourself as you're going forward, the easier it'll become. That looks pretty good to me. So we're going to pull this up to the top, or pull this up to underneath, sorry. We're going to put our byline on it, Shift, down arrow 1, pull our text box up, Shift, down arrow 1, we get our spacing right, pull this down, looking good. Let's change our jump line before we get our text on the page. So let's say Pat's coaches. Okay, now let's go find that story. I think we're ready for it. We just got to put it in a little box. So then we go Patriots coordinators. Like that. On the page. Zoom in. Okay, then select it and like select in there. Control A to make sure we got it all. Eyedropper tool. Make sure it works. Now we don't have to monkey around with the headline. We already did that. So delete that. Change our byline. Kyle Hightower. And he's a member of the Associated Press. There's a little AP thing there. Get rid of Kyle Hightower. We don't need him anymore. He's got his own byline already. Hit the W button just to make sure it works. And there you go. It might not be the sexiest page of all time, but fundamentally, it's a solid page. We have 4 stories on here. We might be able to put like a mugshot or something in here, but I think for what we're trying to do right now, this is our goal for the next couple of weeks is right here. Just solid, clean design, make sure everything fits into a nice square package, even though the text may look a little different, or a rectangle package. And that's what you're looking for right there. So I'm going to do actually one more, and we're going to do the jump page for this story or these stories here. And I'll show you guys how jumps work and all that kind of stuff. And that'll kind of be our move ahead piece this week, other than the homework that I already sent you. So give me just a second, and we'll cut this up into another video, and then we'll be right back. Okay, if you guys haven't noticed, coffee is the lifeblood of the newsroom. So if you're not a coffee drinker, that's fine. You don't have to be a coffee drinker working in a newsroom, but there are a lot of coffee drinkers that do work in newsrooms. So if you hear any little beeps or boops here, I'm also texting with Sean McFarland. Most of you guys know him very well. Just to make sure paper tomorrow or not a paper tomorrow, see how it goes. So our next step here, and I kind of changed my mind about the Eagles shirt story here. So we are gonna jump that one on the inside because we might need the help with it. So we're just gonna put a jump line on there. Pull this down. Name it shirts. Oops. Make sure you put that R in there for shirts. Okay. So I have these 4 stories, and we're going to jump them onto the inside here. So we have our ads already are on here. We're going to go over ads and that kind of thing a little bit more in person when we get there for jumps. But usually your front page will have ads on the jump page, the corresponding jump page. Most of the time, your jump page will not be like the second page of the section. It'll be like either the back page or the third page of the section for a variety of reasons, mostly because those are the higher trafficked pages of a section, or the first, third, and last page. Those tend to be the most trafficked pages. There's reasons around that. I will explain it a little bit later, but since you're just watching the video, we'll talk about it later. So first things first, we want to treat the jump page similar to how we treat the main page. There is one exception, and that's headline dominance, but we'll get there in just a second. So first things first, I'm going to go to my jump page. I'm going to make sure everything is good up at the top of my jump page. So in this case, this is fine. Your pages won't look like that. But we have to change this to, when you get to a real paper, these will look different. They always do. But just make sure it says sports and B2 up here, because it's for our practice purposes, that's what it is. So we have our four ads down here. The general rule of thumb about ads, and I was going to say this in class, but I will say it here, is don't touch ads. Whatever you do, don't touch ads. Don't move them. Don't reshape them. Don't restack them. Don't do anything with them. Ads are there to help pay your paycheck. So don't mess around with them. Don't monkey around with them. Just leave them as they are. There's ways to work around ads to make them help you, but really don't touch ads. It's a really giant no-no. Don't touch them. Don't. So we have to work with them, though. So we notice that there's this kind of weird jump here, how this is going to end higher than this. So that's kind of a signal to us that we call it squaring off your ads. So what that means is we're going to have a jump of our stories from the front that's probably going to be 2 columns, and maybe another one on top of it that's 2 columns, which will help square this off. And you'll see what I mean by that in just a little bit. The other thing is we have 4 jumps that we have to get on here. So what I did was, and this is kind of off screen here again, I drew myself up a little plan. So I got a little plan here of what I'm going to do. I'm going to walk you through the little plan. So a couple of things we got to do first. We have to have, even though it's a jumps page, we still need a dominant headline, a dominant photo, and then all those jumps. So what we're going to do this is we're going to put a dominant story right here in this upper left-hand corner, this 3-column spot, because we have one that we still can use. Then we put a jump underneath, a jump underneath, a jump in this 2-column spot, a jump in this 2-column spot. All right, so you can kind of imagine that in your head right here. So first things first, we're going to get our page set up so we can just do what we got to do and we don't have to monkey around with anything else. So I don't know why I keep saying monkey around with. I just saw a thing on Jane Goodall when John Oliver interviewed her. I saw it on YouTube maybe a couple days ago. Maybe that's stuck in my head for some reason. Anyway, so we take the we go over here and we grabbed our guideline. I'll just do it again here just to show you. So we're going to cut into the bigger side of our page. It's going to be this 3-column side. So we line it up there and do our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, or however you want to do it. So now we know that this blue guide is where our stuff can go on the left side, and the purple guide is where our stuff can go on the right side. And we're going to put a rule down the middle. Let's just put our rule on there now so we don't have to think about it as much. Now, some papers do this a little differently, but you don't want to draw your rule all the way down to the side, because remember, we don't want to mess around with the ads. So draw just above. All right, and if you need a guideline, just go down to the top. You can put a guideline on there because that won't show up. And then shift up, up. And let's make sure that our guideline lines up on it. And we're actually going to do that for this one too, because then it's going to help us guide us later. So shift up, up. So now in these 3 columns, don't go below this green guideline. And in these 2 columns, don't go below this green line, because we don't mess with ads. Don't mess with them. Don't do it. So that's what our jump page is going to kind of look like. All right. See how we have our 2-column spots here where we can put stuff. We got 3-column spots. But first, we got to get a headline. We got to get a story package on here first. So I think we're going to take our regular news headline. That's going to be way too big, of course. But it's just going to be, we're going to get it on there to start, so we kind of know what we're going to be looking at. Then we're going to grab a copy and paste a photo box, which has a photo that we're going to change out. What we actually might do is we might make this a 3. Now watch this. I know I'm moving stuff around here. I'm moving all with the black arrow. Just follow along for a second. Put that up there. Now it's behind, the headline's behind there, so we're just going to move this up like this. So we'll do photo, headline, story. And what I forget, cut line. So let's copy that here. Even a jump line one needs a cut line on it, so we line it up, shift down 1 just to get our spacing. Line up our headline, shift down 1 just to get our spacing. Okay, and then let's make this like, I don't know, like 65, just to get us closer to where we want to be. Okay, so now we should have one more, or we got to get our byline before we start messing around too much. Byline on there. You don't need a jump line for this one, of course. So let me show you a little trick that I do to make sure my spacing is correct around bylines. So let's use our guidelines. They'll probably help us out. So I'm going to draw a 1-column text box underneath this. Then to the right of it, I'm going to draw a 2-column text box that lines up with everything. Click on this, make sure it's 2 columns. So you see how this is going to run around the headline now, or the byline, excuse me. So it's going to go whoop, and you don't have to worry about like the text wrapping and all that kind of stuff. So, okay, so we have our next story package like kind of in place here. How do we kind of fill this out? Well, we should, in our folder, if we close this one, have an extra story or 2 help fill it out. So we're between the fans going crazy and the linemen. Excuse me. So I'm going to go with the fan story instead of the lineman one. So just because I just kind of feel like going that way. So what we're going to do is before we even grab the text, we're going to get our photo done. We're going to get all our other stuff done. And then we can just drop the text in. And that's our last step. So first things first, let's get our photo done because that's going to be the most important thing. So you saw I went and picked my white arrow and I go in there and I select it. And that's what the photo size is, but we don't want that photo. So all we do is hit the delete button. And we still have our photo box. We just don't have a photo in it now. So let's go back over here and let's pick our photo out. Fans 1. That guy looks pretty crazy. That's not anything. No, that's not bad. I think we might have a winner there, though. This is like the a very famous building in Philadelphia. That's Benjamin Franklin up at the top of it, I think. Or no, it's William Penn. Sorry, it's William Penn. I don't know. I think it's William Penn. I might have to look it up. But anyway, Philly fans going crazy. Number one, good. So that's the photo I'm going to use. So hit the download button. Make sure it's in my Super Bowl materials folder. Hit save. Okay, so let's go back to InDesign. Black arrow. I'm going to hit Control D to place it, or you can go File, Place. Cool. Looks good. In case you missed one there, I clicked on it with the blue or my black arrow, and then if you double click, it automatically will switch to the white arrow for you. But just be careful with that one. So just make sure you got it, and then white arrow, and make sure you select it with that. Go up to fill proportionally. Pretty good. I want that building in the back. You see how it cuts this building off? So I'm going to hold down this as it's in this yellow border. I'm going to hold the shift button down and hit the down button so it moves the photo itself. And adjust just a little bit more because I want that building in there, because that building is kind of a really cool image because it says it's Philadelphia. So I think that's pretty good. I think we're looking pretty good. So photo is set. Good size photo. Photo is set. We're not going to put any other photos on this page because we're going to have jumps all around it. And we have these ads at the bottom, which kind of, in the designer's mind, kind of act like kind of visual things anyway. So next thing, cut line or the credit line looks good. Let's go down and make sure our cut line is done. So let's see. We know it's going to be on Sunday. The Eagles are going to win over the Patriots. So let's say, what do we say? Just get rid of this part. Philadelphia Eagle fans celebrate their teams, because they didn't win the game, win over the New England Patriots Super Bowl on Sunday, blah, blah, blah. You see how we have this little thing hanging here, and it's going to leave this whole big line of space. If you can, try and get that all in one line. So let's say, how we just say Philadelphia fans celebrate their team's win over the New England Patriots, blah, blah, blah. I think that's good. So next thing we have to do is we have to move this up a little bit here. Oops, wrong arrow. Okay, so saw how I kind of did that there. I had the white arrow. So, okay, so let's redo this all. See, there we go. Okay, so I clicked on this and it wasn't working. So I went to my white arrow and I clicked on this and it was giving me like all these weird things. Now you can't freak out. Don't freak out. Just go back here and get your black arrow. And most of the time, the black arrow solves everything. So we're going to move this up. Black arrow saved us there. So now we're going to move our headline up just a little bit just to compensate for that missing space. Shift down arrow. And these little Y's, they hang over a little bit. So we're going to make our box a little bit bigger there just to give us a little room to work with. All right. Adjust our byline, adjust our text box, adjust our text box. All right, looking good. Oops, wrong button there. I want to hit 0. Let's make sure it looks good. Yeah, looking pretty good. Well, there's an argument to be made that maybe we should shift this over on the other side, but we'll talk about that when we talk about photos a little bit and directional photos and that kind of thing. So let's just get our headline before we do anything. Okay. So that looks pretty good. Let's get our box size adjustments. Now, Philly fans freak out. This is a little bit too low, I think. It's pretty good. Okay, my mistake. Okay, so I like that headline, but it kind of needs a subhead on it. So we're gonna compensate by putting on 3 columns beneath it. So we're just moving this stuff out of the way. We're gonna move it back in just a little bit. Let's draw ourselves a text box. Say Eagles first Super Bowl win ever sent leads to crazy celebrations. Okay, so now we have to get that formatted properly. So we take our, you saw what I did. Sorry, let me just back up again. Sorry, I'm getting fast because we're starting to get it. Okay, so there, I wrote my headline, then I Control A to select it all. Now I have to go find the proper subhead for that. In this case is the italic one. So hit the little thing there. All right, so you see how it switched? All right, I'll click back in it, Control A to select it all, and let's make sure it fits. Let's see, Eagles' first Super Bowl win. Okay, so now it almost fits again. So we adjust our point size up 1 point. So we're at 22 points now. And get it to fit. So now let's take a look from above. Looks pretty good. Come back in here. Let's adjust our text boxes again. Shifting down, shifting directional down, shift directional down. Make this a little bit bigger. Now, right now, I'm just eyeballing the size of these text boxes. I'm not exactly sure, but I know we're going to put a jump here, and that's probably about the size of the jump. It's just an educated guess, and you'll kind of start picking that up as we go along. But now we're ready to go. Photo, cut line, headline, subhead, byline's on there, just needs to be refilled out, and we don't need a jump line. So let's go and find that story in our folder. Okay, copy that. In. Okay, now the formatting on it should be incorrect, which is fine. Click in there, Control A to select it all. Back to the eyedropper tool. Go back up, find the correct one. All set. Okay. Delete that. We don't need that. Let's get our byline done. Now, this is a good example of a byline that's going to give us some trouble. So, Dave Zeitlin. I use the ampersand. We're going to use the ampersand. Kristen D. Groot. I am Groot. Okay, so you see how Kristen's broken up over 2 lines. Can't leave it like that. This is the tedious kind of stuff you run into when you do design. So what you got to do is you go up there, give her a little enter, and it just makes it, we call it a double byline, obviously, double. So you just move her down into it so she has her own line so her name isn't broken up. You know, that's just what you got to do, and you got to adjust your text box accordingly. That's how it goes. Sorry. I wish I had a better answer for you, but that's just how the cookie crumbles. Get rid of the AP. Looking good. Adjust our height just a touch. Grab our, so now we have this set. So now we grab our red arrow here, or red plus sign, sorry, with our black arrow and move it to our next thing. And in this case, we got lucky because it breaks right on a paragraph break, which is where we want to happen. So the one thing is you see this little extra white space here, and this is just like, again, it's just the OCD in me, and it's partially from just doing this in years past. You want that all to line up. Now it looks like there's a little extra white space underneath the byline. So we got to kind of rock this back and forth here a little bit. What I mean by rocking back and forth is we got to pull that back up and see how it adjusted everything. Now we have an extra line here. We have to go in, we have Control A, and we go up here and you say, oh, it's on 20. This thing that says VA next to it. That's the letting between the letters. It really makes Brewer angry when we have to do this kind of stuff. He's just reminding you that you don't want to go much higher than 1 click either way on this. So click it once and see what happens. Okay, so we're on 30. Let's see what it looks like on 10. Okay, so we kind of need, we're going to have to adjust a little bit here. So let's leave it on 10 for now and then adjust. See what the end of this quote looks like. Let's pull this down a little bit. Oh, still not moving for us. It's okay. 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 So let's see. So if we go, let's see if we can get the rest of that quote on there. Find there the quote ends up. Okay, there we go. Okay, so you see how that worked? We moved stuff around a little bit and made it work. And now we're close because now we only have to get rid of one line. So we do the same thing. We select it all again. Back in here, and then with a 10, let's try it on 20 now. Oh, too much. Okay. So let's see. I just gotta click on a couple things. Okay. So this paragraph is an interesting paragraph because you see how close it is to the end of the line there? That's the one we want. We want to adjust just this paragraph. And I'll show you why in just a second. So we want to bump this line off. So we select just this paragraph and we bump that up to a 20. And you see how it breaks pandemonium over the line? That's totally fine. And it bumps our line down there. That's one that's something you kind of just have to use the program a lot and see how it works. And we'll talk about this more and more as we go through. But that's pretty much what you got to do right there. So now you're all set. Photo, cut line, headline, subhead, story, all set, good to go. So let's pull a guideline down and line it up on the bottom of this. And we're going to move it down, shift, down arrow twice. So now you can see the box that you're working in for one of your jump heads or one of your jump stories. Okay? And we're going to do that first. We're going to square this page off first. And this is where the square off comes into play. Excuse me. We're going to put a story here, or a jump of one of our front page stories to just fill out the rest of these 3 columns. So how do we do that? Okay. We need a jump head. Where'd my jump heads go? Did I not make jump heads? No, I did. Okay. Jump heads are subhead 2. Sorry, we'll go over this a little bit more when we do jump heads in person. But anytime you need a jump head, take subhead line 2, copy and paste it. Subhead line 2 will go right here. And then pull it the whole way across. Now, jump heads you treat just like regular heads, except they have to start with whatever you decided over here. Okay, so we start with Eagles win. So Eagles win Super Bowl. We're going to select it all, and we're going to make it a -10 because it's going to make it fit. You can do again. You can do as long as it's 10, as long as it's one click either way, and it makes it fit. You're good to go. So then we go down here, or we go back up here. And now this, instead of a jump head, or instead of a jump line, that's this thing. We take a from line because it says from on it. So let's copy and paste it and move it to the next page. So then we put it up here. So, and if you open up the regular paper, you'll see these all over the place, the from lines. I mean, whenever they jump a story. Jumping stories is something you're probably not going to do as much anymore because you just don't jump stories as much as you used to. But the ideas are still the same. We line it up on our jump head there, and we hit shift and then the down button to give us a little bit of space. Now, in this case, we don't have to worry about a photo. We don't have to worry about a cut line. We don't have to worry because we're only jumping the story. So we're only going to have text here. So we draw our text box up to the bottom. And this is set to have a text wrap around it, so you don't have to worry about that. And we draw another 2-column text box next to it. Black arrow. Make it 2 columns up here. Okay, good. Now we go back up to this story. You see the red plus sign here. And the red plus sign, and then take your time. It's not a race. To get it back over here and click right here. And then that will automatically make sure that this text on the front page, let me just zoom out here. Where this text ends is where this text begins. Automatically does it for you. We don't copy and paste after we get it on the page. We use the red box, the red plus sign, okay? So then a red plus sign again, put it right there, and it fits. Great. Now the one issue we have is that it kind of it goes over the size that we need. So we're going to hit the red plus sign one more time. And we're actually going to jump it right here so we can see how much space we have to make up. So we have to make up 2 lines worth of space. So that's okay. We can do that. So we're going to go into our jump box here, and we're going to hit Control A. And this is Brewer the Beagle reminding you, don't go more than one either way on this. Make it a 10 to see what happens. Okay, good. And we only need one line. And I have a feeling this paragraph is going to do it for us. You see how I selected that one paragraph? Just a triple click to select the one paragraph. Make it a 20. And that didn't do it. So we can't do that one. So try this paragraph. I'll make that a 20. Ah, I did it. So you see how we end on a paragraph break now? We lose a quote, but that's okay. It's wire stories can always be taken care of. And we're going to actually delete this box, which should bring back our red arrow over here, which is totally fine. So if we hit our W button, you see how it ends? And this headline acts as a natural break for this story above it. Sorry, just drinking some coffee. All right, so I know that was a little quick. We're going to do 3 more of them over here. But you can kind of see how this is going to start coming together. So, all right, let's watch again. So I need to jump these other 3 stories here. And maybe we'll put a photo with one of them. We'll see how we have for space. So first things first, let's get our jump head done. So this is our jump head. Just copy and pasted that. I'm going to put it up here. Go back up here and we see, okay, we have to lead with foals. That's what we said on our front page. So it's easy for our readers to find what we're looking for. So I'll say foals leads birds to title. Let's make them capital B birds. Okay. So oh, one other thing I didn't point out about jump heads is you don't, I guess you can mess around with the point size. You try not to mess around with the point size. It's set at 50, and you want to leave it at 50, as opposed to other headlines where you want to adjust them. So we're just going to leave this little extra white space here so we don't mess around with it too much. It'll be fine. Trust me, I've done this before. So we go up, we grab our from line. Paste our from line on the page. Control C, Control V. Line it up, shift down 1. This is from page 1, so perfect. And let's draw our text boxes around it to make it work. So 1 column box, 1 column box. Okay. Zoom out just to make our lives a little bit easier. Go here. And now I've done this a million times before. You might need to zoom back in. You can click on the plus sign from here, as long as you click on the plus sign. So I click on the plus sign, drop it there, sign, drop it there. Oh, a little bit. All right, let's zoom in and see what we got. So what we're going to do in this case, actually, is we're going to pull these up a little bit. And let's see. Okay. So we have to get rid of this one line. So we're going to pull this up a little bit, and I think it should still not move. There we go. Okay, so good. So that's our Nick Foles jump to start. Okay, so next one we need another. We're going to jump our Patriot coordinators story. So let's copy and paste our jump line, our jump head. Now, first thing we have to do is we have to get our spacing done right. So we're going to do 1, 2, because this headline is going to act as a natural kind of break. And now that we think about it, we're like, oh, we messed up on this page, because we really have a natural break here with this headline, but we added this extra rule in. So how do we go back and fix that? That's fine. Let's go back and fix it. Delete that. And let's go 1, 2, and pull this down. So there you go. So then our headline acts as a natural break. See what I mean? You don't need this rule because now you have a natural break on your headline. So That's kind of up to you as the designer. Like I'm going to leave mine there. I hit Control Z just to back it up to that step. I'm going to actually probably just edit all this out. So, okay. So anyway, we're back to our stuff here. We're going to add, okay, so let's move on to the next jump. So we go 1, 2. Oh, sorry. So we're going to move on to our next jump. So let's get our spacing done. So we bring down a guideline, Shift 1, 2. And then we're going to copy and paste our jump head. Line it up on that. 1, 2. We're going to draw our rule across. Just take a look to make sure it makes sense. Looks good to me. So we're going to jump the Patriots coaches story first. So Pat's coaches is what we decided to put there. Pat's coaches. A leave team. Okay, and then we go back to this and we'll make it a 0. Make it a negative. Okay, so that's fighting us now. So coaches, A, leave team. We kind of went over our quota there. Let's see, coaches. All right, so 20. Little squished. All right, we're going to cheat a little bit. We're going to make that 48. All right, so we cheated a little bit. 2 point size, 2 points of size doesn't make a huge difference, but you know, just so you can keep that in mind. It's an option you have. So let's copy and paste our from line. Shift down arrow, or down arrow once. Draw our text boxes. Text box. Good. Black arrow. And zoom out. Oh, wrong button. Zoom out. So then we click on our plus sign. Drop it. Drop it like it's sign. Oops. See, I misfired there. I clicked on the wrong thing. Gotta make sure it's in the box. All right. So now, just like we did on this Eagles win Super Bowl story, we're going to see what we're working with on our text that's over. So we're only off by 1 line. Or maybe 3 lines, because maybe we want to include this other paragraph here. So let's pull this down just a touch. Pull this down just a touch. And let's see if we can find let's try this and make this a 10 and see how it's cinched that one column or one paragraph up, give us our line that we needed for that. So there we go. All done with that one. Okay. So now we draw another guideline down. Make sure it's selected. Shift down, down. Okay. Copy and paste our jump line, or jump headline, sorry. That's where it's going to go. And I see we only have a little bit of space, so we really want this to be 1 deck. So what's our story up here? What do we have to include? Shirts. Shirts from Shirts for Winners. Okay. Shirts are ready. There we go. So we made that 1 deck. So we can copy and paste our from line. Shift down, hit once. Let's draw our text boxes. Remember, this is our guideline right here for this ad stack. So we draw 1 text box there, 1 text box there. Go back to our black arrow. Whenever you're in trouble, go back to your black arrow. Whenever you're in trouble, go back to the black arrow. The black arrow is so important. So we go up here, red plus sign. Drop that there. Red plus sign, drop that there. Okay, we're over again. So we hit the red plus sign one more time. We drop it off to the side. We're only off by 1 line. So let's see if we can make this paragraph help us out. Select it, go up to this one right here. Perfect. And we can get rid of that. Hit the W button, zoom out. There's your jump page. So there you go. That's the whole smash. We have 4-story front. We have a lead photo and a lead headline on our jump page. We have 4 jumps. And you notice how everything it fits in a square or a rectangle. Oops, we did forget one thing. Got our rule here. So let's get in there and get that done. And actually, to be honest with you, we don't really need this rule either. So let's actually, instead of making life harder for ourselves, delete that. Select all this, move it up to there. And what we can do is move this guideline up. Let's go. Okay, so then we move the whole thing up here, and now we have some more room to fill. So all we got to do is just fill it with a story. That's fine. So now we're over by, so we only have to get one more line. So let's go like this, and let's select everything. 10 in this spot. Let's see what happens. Okay. So that gets us only one line off, like we have one extra line here. So let's select like this paragraph. That's a good paragraph, and make it a 20. Perfect. I know that was a little quick back and forth there. So essentially what we did was we got rid of this rule. And you can just watch it again if you need to just go back and watch it again. Got rid of this rule, move this story up, and then to compensate for that space that we had opened up, we had to make this jump longer. So we just pulled these text boxes down and then messed with our numbers just to make things work. Messed with these numbers right up here once you select a paragraph. All right, so I always get rid of this extra box because I don't need it. Like that. Now we're done. So there you go. I know it seems a little daunting, a little overwhelming at times, but you'll get it as you keep going. So I would suggest watching this video, watching the previous videos again if you're still struggling, and go to the book. The book has great examples of why this stuff is the way it is and how this stuff works. I'm just showing you more how to hit the buttons and what buttons to hit and what orders to put things in, because it'll make your life easier. So, like in this case, I would probably change this to MVP folds and dump that a point or two. Yeah, 47 is fine. Fill that out, maybe put a the there. Something like that. Those are kind of corrections you make after the fact. Like this should be something like that. Put apostrophe, maybe not. Those are like the little things you'll think about once you get it done. But that's it. You're done. You're all set. That's a cover, a 4-story cover, and a 4-jump 1-story jump page with a variety of ads on the bottom. All right. So looking pretty good. I'm going to get these all cut up and edited, and then we'll ship them over to you guys, and you should be all set. Take some time to do the homework for the week, and then you're good to go. And we'll keep doing this over and 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 over again. All right? Talk to you soon. Thanks for hanging out. Oh, no. We'll do. One final thing before you're done, always save your work. Control-S, file save. And we're also going to export it. Control-E or file export. And you want to export it as a PDF. And then name it, your name, space, Super Bowl, cover, and jump. Something like that. So I know what it is. And save it into that workspace folder and hit save. It'll bring this up. Just hit export. It'll bring up a warning. Just hit OK. And there you go. And then you can look at it again. We're looking pretty good. Looking pretty good. Pretty good. I like it. All right. And then you might save those to various places, but that's how you do it. Save one more time, and then you're all done. All right, so now I'm going to get these edited up, and then you guys should be all set for the week. Stay warm. Make sure your cars are okay. Don't go on the roads if you don't have to. And yeah, we'll talk soon. Thanks.